Pam. Our final speaker for today is, she's known as the Veggie Cook. Do you know who the Veggie Cook is? She's a columnist, gosh, I'm sorry, I can't say that word today, at the Chicago Tribune. She's a vegan chef and a pioneer of the vegetarian and the natural food movements in Chicago. Please welcome Kay Stepkin.
Hello, everybody. Probably by the time I'm done talking, I will have forgotten to say this, so I just want to mention that I brought a bunch of handouts. They have my email address on them, and it's my 5 favorites in different vegetarian categories. If anyone's interested, just ask me. So, many of you probably know that our great vegetarian movement has a very long history. It goes back over 2,000 years, all the way to Pythagoras, and probably even before that. But what you might not know is that we also have a strong and long history right here in Chicago. Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle in 1906. That caused such a furor that within 1 year, our Congress had passed the Pure Food and Drug Act. The Chicago Vegetarian Society was incorporated in Chicago in 1943. And as it happens, I was personally also incorporated in Chicago in 1943. Coincidence? Probably. A man named John Maxwell that same year owned a vegetarian restaurant on Wabash. Now this was not only in the middle of our downtown, but it was in the middle of World War II. This John Maxwell, a couple years later, actually ran for President of the United States against Harry Truman. I heard that he lost. Also back then, we had an organization called the National Hygiene Society. It's still in existence today. They changed their name to the Natural Health Association. You can probably see why they would change that name of Hygiene Society. But it is a vegan organization. They were promoting raw foods way back in the 1940s. They had an office on Irving Park Road. They're in Florida now. They're still going. I don't know if I said this or not, but they're the oldest health organization in the country. And they're from Chicago. Paul Obis started Vegetarian Times in Chicago. Published it from here for about 20 years. It is still going. It was bought out by some large company. Just a little glossier than it was when Paul was doing it. Nathan Pritikin. In my opinion, Nathan Pritikin has done more than any one person for the strength, the growth, and mainly the acceptance of our movement. I turned on the TV about a month ago, Channel 11, WTTW, and I don't know if you know him, but there was Joel Fuhrman. He's a great vegan physician from the East Coast. There was Joel Fuhrman about a month ago talking about the relationship between our standard American diet and heart disease. Nathan Pritikin was talking about this in the 1940s. As you can imagine, he was ridiculed, he was made fun of, the guy had no credentials. He went to the University of Chicago, he was born in Chicago, if I didn't say that. He went to the University of Chicago for 3 years, so no college degree, and he wasn't a physician. So he was quite interesting. By the time I opened the bread shop in 1971, most of this was gone. I did not know one vegetarian. I'm going to tell you 3 different milestones in my career from then until now. So there I was in 1971, a vegetarian. Everybody thought I was nuts. And as if it wasn't bad enough that I didn't eat meat, here I'm going to open a business. And we're going to make food. We're going to make vegetarian food and sell it to people. Well, who's going to come? Who's going to buy it? But I had an interesting psychological thing that because I had no support, I really didn't have to listen to any of these people and their advice. And so I just operated the bread shop the way I thought, the way I, in my 20s, thought that the world should be run. So when we opened, no machines. Our only machine was our oven. We made whole grain breads by hand, hundreds of loaves a day, totally by hand. I thought we should be giving jobs to people, not to machines. The work was beyond difficult, and we started at 5 or 5:30 every day. But we did get people working there. There's a few right here. As an American, I know that all people are created equal. So at the bread shop, for the early years, we all had equal decision-making power. If somebody had been working there a day, if somebody had been working there a year, we all were equal. So what that led to was endless meetings where we would discuss sometimes the same stuff over and over and come to horrible decisions that we would enforce. Money. I didn't believe in money back then. I thought I was just so passionate about spreading vegetarianism, wanted to charge as little as possible to, to influence as many people as possible. And was lucky I didn't believe in money because we sold stuff so cheaply, not that much money was coming in. Our first year and a half, we each made $5 a day. The second year and a half, $7 a day. By the time I started the restaurant, Bread Shop Kitchen, we were up to $2 an hour. Even back then, that was not minimum wage. So, I'm sure that you didn't just arrive at vegetarianism or veganism in a vacuum, but somebody influenced you. Maybe a book you read or a person you met, some great person. And I too was influenced by a great person, and that was James Bond. In 1965, that's where my journey started, I picked up Thunderball. And there on page 9 was the most amazing paragraph, which I'm going to read to you. Had this been on page 90, I might not be a vegetarian today, because the book wasn't that good. But here's the background of it. Bond is in bad shape. He's all run down, too much alcohol, and not enough sleep, and eating terrible. And his boss, M, insists that he go to a health farm. And this is the paragraph of what M says to Bond, 1965. That's just where you're making a big mistake, James. Taking medicine only suppresses these symptoms of yours. Medicine doesn't get to the root of the trouble. It only conceals it. The result is a more highly poisoned condition which may become chronic disease. All drugs are harmful to the system. They are contrary to nature. The same applies to most of the food we eat. White bread with all the roughage removed, refined sugar with all the goodness machined out of it, pasteurized milk which has had most of the vitamins boiled away, everything overcooked and denaturized. This was a totally unique concept, and I was at the library the next day and started reading. It was... Okay, and my third milestone I'm going to tell you about is how I got the job as a vegan columnist at the Chicago Tribune. It's beyond thrilling to me. I just love it. I never thought of myself as a writer. Here's how it happened. I was reading the Tribune one day, and there was a recipe in the food section for whole wheat cookies. And I was all excited. The Tribune has a whole wheat cookie. And as I read it, I realize that the reporter neglected to say whole wheat pastry flour. There's two kinds of whole wheat flour. And it's much easier to find whole wheat bread flour. And I knew that some people reading this recipe were going to use bread flour, and that cookie was going to turn out dry and hard, and they were going to say, oh, this health food, I always knew it was junk. That's it, I'm through with it. It just really bothered me. I couldn't get out of my mind. A couple weeks went by, and finally I wrote a passionate letter to this reporter, and I emailed it to her, and just at the end of it, I thought to myself, well, she might say to herself, I'm the food expert here, what does she know? So at the end I wrote, I used to own a whole grain bakery. And I emailed it off, and within 20 minutes I got a response. And the reporter said, this was all she was interested in. What was the name of your bakery? And I wrote her back, the bread shop. And it turns out that she had been a customer there. And she loved the place. And we started a little correspondence. By that summer, I was writing a column for the Tribune. So that's how it happened. And by the way, it's syndicated, not across the country, just within there's like a dozen papers owned by the Tribune around the country. So because of that, I'm not allowed to say the word Chicago. So, anyway, I just thought I'd say that. Okay, so back then in 1970, when I became a vegetarian, I figured that all of Chicago would turn veggie within a year, maybe 2 years. I did not realize that it would take this long. But here we are today, finally having gained some respect and just beginning to take off and spread our influence. A very interesting question to me is, how did Chicago, of all places, get to be so incredibly veg-friendly? Here we went from the Chicago Union stockyards and from, wait, I'll think of it, hog butcher to the world to today. I saw us go from one vegetarian business to today over 60 vegetarian businesses. It's amazing. One not-for-profit to about a dozen not-for-profits. Why did our great movement get so strong in Chicago? I believe it is due to our centrality. Not only are we in the center of the country, but we are also central to all peoples on the planet. We here in Chicago combine every ethnicity, every religion, every race, and I believe that makes us very strong. And also, we have managed to learn how to work together without losing our roots, and I think that is a strength. I lived in Berkeley, California for a couple of years, and while it's a lovely city, they have no neighborhoods. They have no ethnic food. They have no heritage. We here work together, we live together while still keeping the identity of our ancestors and gaining strength from these multiple identities that we have as Chicagoans. We vegans and vegetarians did not spring into the world as orphans with no history. We have a large extended family behind us. I think that if we become more familiar with our vegetarian past, we can grow way beyond the strength of the past and also not have to repeat its mistakes. Thank you.